just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown.
Sunny Hostin, the outspoken television personality known for her bold critiques of America's historical and systemic issues, recently found herself in the midst of a storm she never saw coming. She made a revelation that stunned her audience, left critics eager to strike, and set the stage for a verbal showdown. But no one could have predicted the forceful takedown that awaited her when Greg Gutfeld, the king of sharp commentary, stepped into the ring. This wasn't just a clash, it was a complete dismantling, live and unfiltered, that put every layer of Sunny's narrative under an intense spotlight.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin.
It all began with Sunny's appearance on PBS's Finding Your Roots, where she uncovered a deeply ironic twist in her family history. The progressive commentator, renowned for her fierce critiques of America's oppressive past and her frequent discussions on systemic racism, was stunned to learn that her third great-grandfather had been a slaveholder.
He was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry.
Oh, I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah.
Yes, a man who once held another human in bondage, a fact that's starkly contrasted with the values Sunny passionately champions today.
How are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
When the truth was unveiled, the disbelief in Sunny's expression was impossible to ignore. The irony seemed tailor-made for a media firestorm, and Greg Gutfeld, ever ready with his incisive wit, wasted no time seizing the moment known for skewering hypocrisy. Gutfeld's sharp critique turned into a takedown that echoed far beyond the broadcast.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Now that you know your family's history, will you reconsider your constant lectures about systemic racism? Gutfeld asked his tone-cutting, but undeniably pointed. He didn't hold back, accusing Sunny of applying a double standard, unrelenting in her condemnation of America's historical injustices, but was quick to excuse her own family's culpability as a mere product of the times. This wasn't just criticism, it was a mirror held up for all to see, exposing a Kant contradiction too glaring to ignore Sunny's reaction to the revelation, and her subsequent handling of it only added fuel to the fire. She referred to her ancestors' actions as simply what they did back then, a toned, deft dismissal that enraged critics.
Well, first, I just want to go on the record to let everyone know that I am very much against slavery.
Okay, good.
Very brave to say that on this panel. Karma, definitely. I mean, it's one thing. It's going to be so awkward.
To Gutfeld and his viewers, this casual deflection stood in stark contrast to her otherwise uncompromising stance on accountability for historical injustices.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
You know?
Sunny can call America racist all day long, Gutfeld noted. But when it's her own family's actions under scrutiny, suddenly it's just a fact of life.
She could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before. That was to me, the one thing that was missing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's okay, now that you have this information, have you had any personal growth? Do you think about things differently? You have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because when you're presented with new information, it's okay to change your mind. It's good to change your mind, but you should acknowledge that has happened.
The moment sparked a frenzy on social media, with audiences calling out the glaring inconsistency. Many echoed Gutfeld's sentiment, labeling Sunny's response as emblematic of a broader problem, one where identity politics overshadow meaningful dialogue. The biting observation even led to a stinging jab.
She is shaming descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Now we know why she makes Whoopi get the coffee. Gutfeld quipped a remark equal parts humorous and barbed beyond the biting commentary. The situation shed light on the pitfalls of performative advocacy.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Coffee Gutfeld's dissection wasn't just an attack on Sunny, but a broader critique of a public figure seemingly unable to reconcile her rhetoric with the real IDs of her own lineage. It highlighted how moral posturing can crumble under the weight of personal contradictions, making productive conversations about race and systemic issues all the more elusive.
You think about things that she said and how offensive they are?
Yeah.
Well, karma.
Yeah, it is karma.
Sunny's revelation and Gutfeld's unrelenting takedown have become a flashpoint in media commentary, igniting discussions about hypocrisy, accountability, and the importance of honest self-reflection.
If she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
This wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was a moment that exposed deeper tensions in the national discourse. A moment we won't soon forget. Greg Gutfeld's on-air critique wasn't just an attack on Sunny Hostin, it was an unflinching reminder of the power of accountability. As the conversation unfolded, Gutfeld turned Sunny's narrative back on her, forcing her, and by extension, the audience to grapple with the contradictions that find the moment. This wasn't just a fiery exchange, it became a cultural litmus test for discussions about race history and responsibility. The question Gutfeld posed, will Sunny hold herself to the same standard she imposes on others, set the tone for a conversation that quickly spiraled into a viral spectacle. As expected, the internet exploded with reactions, with Gutfeld's scathing remarks dominating social media platforms. Clips of his commentary spread like wildfire, drawing both applause and critique. Sunny host discovering her ancestors were slaveholders. That's the twist we didn't see coming. One user quipped, echoing the widespread surprise. Another applauded Gutfeld's delivery writing. He said what everyone else was thinking, and it was absolute perfection. But as is typical in these cultural clashes, the internet wasn't entirely united. While Gutfeld's supporters reveled in the poetic justice of his remarks, Sunny's defenders rallied to her side. They argued that she was still in the process of coming to terms with an unexpected and deeply personal revelation. However, for many, her initial reaction, a tone seen as dismissive and deflective, made it hard to sympathize. Instead of owning the moment, Sunny's response felt like an attempt to skirt the weight of her family's historical ties. And that critics noted is precisely why Gutfeld's critique hit so hard. This wasn't just about Sunny's ancestry, it was about a larger narrative. Gutfeld didn't simply highlight her hypocrisy, he used it to expose a broader pattern where identity politics often become a shield against scrutiny. He argued that wielding such politics without introspection erodes meaningful discourse, making it easier to point fingers at others while ignoring our own blind spots. For Gutfeld and many viewers, Sunny's reaction epitomized this tendency, making her the perfect example of the complexities involved in reconciling personal history with public advocacy beyond the personal clash. This viral moment became a reflection of our divided cultural landscape. The sharp contrast between Sunny's rhetoric and her reaction underscored deeper issues about accountability in modern discussions of history and identity. How do we confront uncomfortable truths about our past? How do we balance criticism with introspection? Sunny's story isn't just about her personal revelation, it's a story that challenges all of us to look inward and question how we approach our own contradictions. And as the debates rage on, one thing remains clear: Gutfeld's fiery commentary wasn't just a takedown, it was a challenge to engage in honest dialogue about history, identity, and the standards we set for ourselves. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for future shocking revelations.